Japan send massive Marines to Philippines Island for help Philippines face China aggression. Amid the brewing tensions in the Indo-Pacific region, Tokyo and Manila have discussed the deployment of Japanese forces in the Philippines. According to the Financial Times, the announcement came after the two nations arrived at a near agreement on several security pacts aimed at boosting regional deterrence against China. The Philippines ambassador to the United States, José Manuel Romualdez, said that the Manila and Tokyo governments are close to signing a reciprocal access agreement, which would enable the militaries of both nations to train and exercise in each other's territories. Romualdez emphasized that the two nations agreed that the deployment of the troops would be conducted on a rotational basis. In the past, similar arrangements have been made with the U.S., which maintains its military forces in the Philippines despite the country's constitutional prohibition of permanent deployments. That's something that we've already discussed in the past, and we will continue to look at that again as part of our cooperation between our countries, Romualdez told the Financial Times. The announcement is expected to send a sharp message to China about how the U.S. and its allies are increasingly worried about its military activity in the region. The U.S., Japan, and the Philippines have raised their concerns over China's growing assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific area. The nations have also expressed their discontent over China's increasing aggression near Taiwan and in the other areas of the South China Sea. In the past few months, several vessels of the Philippines and China got involved in multiple aggressive exchanges in the South China Sea. The confirmation of the military agreement between the two nations came ahead of a landmark U.S.-Japan-Philippines trilateral meeting. The high-level meeting will be hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden next week with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The American ambassador mentioned that Manila is hoping to conclude the military agreement shortly after the trilateral summit, which will be held on April 12 in Washington. Dispatching the SDF to the region would be highly controversial in Japan and would be likely to trigger opposition from Komeito, a coalition partner of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. People close to the Japanese government said a more likely scenario would be for the SDF to be temporarily stationed in the Philippines to take part in joint patrols and drills with the U.S., instead of Japan maintaining its troops on a rotational basis. Deployment of Japanese troops in Southeast Asia would mark a major development for Tokyo and Manila, which have significantly strengthened cooperation with the U.S. to counter China. Christopher Johnston, a Japan expert at the Center for Strategic and International Studies think tank, said, "If it comes to fruition, a presence of Japanese forces in the Philippines would send two powerful messages to China. That a regional, multilateral security architecture is forming in response to Beijing's revisionist behavior, and that Japan has become an accepted security provider in Southeast Asia. Both developments would have been unthinkable just a few years ago." Japan has over the past couple of years significantly boosted its defense posture, including sharply increasing its defense spending and buying U.S.-made Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range capable of hitting targets in China. Several people familiar with discussions inside the Biden administration said officials were increasingly worried that an incident at the reef could trigger a wider confrontation. Speaking ahead of Biden's call on Tuesday with Xi Jinping, president of China, one senior U.S. official said the administration was more and more concerned that Chinese activity around the second Thomas Shoal could lead us closer to unintended consequences. Romualdez said the U.S., Philippines, and Japan were also close to reaching an agreement that would lead to their navies engaging in joint patrols in the South China Sea. He said they were finalizing the details, including on the frequency of the patrols and where they would be conducted.